Whatever it was her situation was not good. It was obvious that he was well trained in hand-to-hand combat, and he had mastered the knife. She doubted that she could beat him fairly. "Watch your eyes," she hummed, as she showed him one of the stun grenades that she had stolen from his ballistic vest. The ancient for his part widened his eyes slightly. He hadn't ever seen her to do it. She threw the grenade on the ground and walked away while covering her ears and closing her eyes. The grenade exploded, catching the agent off guard. Ida then rushed forward and tried to plunge her knife deep into the man's neck. However, he blocked the attack with both his hands, with the hammer first struck into above her fist, forcing the woman to drop the knife, and punched her in the stomach. The woman bent over in a grunt of pain, but in a quick burst of adrenaline, she jumped up and spun her body around, hitting a powerful kick to the side of the man's neck, sending him onto the ground a few steps on one side. He tried to get up, but she was quicker and kicked him in the face, leaving him dazed, giving her time to turn and run for her gun. However, as soon as she grabbed her pistol and turned around, she was hit by a kick to the face. The gun was now violently knocked out of her hand. Ghost looked at that with this certain gratification on his chest. Last time it was him on the ground, and now he could do it that he hadn't done that day. However, before he could put an end to the heavy gunfire, it began to hit the ground a few places away, and he glanced briefly at the helicopter approaching the scene. Ghost clicked his tongue in annoyance and started running towards some cover, while Ida crawled over and picked up her pistol again. She stood up and watched as the helicopter lowered itself, while still firing at the man behind the stone wall. She got into the helicopter as soon as it was low enough and signaled for the pilot to get out. As soon as the helicopter took off and stopped firing, Ghost came out of his hiding and started firing, trying to hit the pilot. However, to his displeasure, the vehicle was armored. That didn't stop him from firing until the helicopter was too far away. He gasped and grunted loudly in annoyance, running his hand over his head in frustration. What the hell? He'd been too emotional lately. Normally he would have just been quick and practical, spared unnecessary actions and unnecessary risks, and this job was the way it should be done. Ida should be dead. He knew that he could have killed her if he wanted to. But ever since he had seen Sherry and Claire, he had been more emotional and out of control, nervous, anxious. If he had forgotten everything he learned over the years. "Fuck!" he screamed at the top of his lungs. Things were going off the rails. "Ghost, this is Hunk. Are you alive out there? Do you read me?" His radio came on inside. At least there was something good in this rain of shit. "However, come in, Hunk. I had a bit of setback. Going to the meeting point now." That was all he said before turning and staring his way. The two agents were flying over the island over the base where it was located, both observing the smoke from the fire. The destruction became more evident as the helicopter descended. The facilities had self-destructed, the system William had put in place in case the facilities were discovered, but that didn't change the sense of frustration that both agents felt. "What the hell?" Ghost muttered out loud. His eyes ran over the bodies of the soldiers who had seen his comrades. He might have not known their names, but he respected them. They were fighting for the same purpose. "I don't think it's all lost. William had planned for cases just like this," Hunk said, picking up his computer and inside the helicopter. It was probably the last one of his premises. "Yes, but all the samples we had, the antidotes in development, the G controllers, everything was destroyed." "That's if Wesker hadn't taken it for himself," Ghost said angrily, lifting his mask and spitting on the floor. "What an inconvenience." "You could say that again, but we'll see," Hunk said, as he typed something into the computer, and Ghost watched him work for a few moments. That was backup case, a special plan developed with situations like these. Hunk would place a special code on the network, and only high-ranking members could access. If Walter or any other high-ranking member was alive, they would find them or be found. That was all that was needed for the code created by Hunk himself when the system was set up. On the entering code was a loading screen appeared on the laptop. It was a matter of minutes before Walter's face appeared. "Ah, Ghost, Reaper. Good you're all right," he said with a sigh. He looked generally relieved. "It's good to see you, Doc, that you're alive," Hunk said, noticing the place he was in. It looked like some kind of shed, but it was too dark at the back to really tell exactly. Yeah, I think so too, said the doctor, in a slight attempt to joke. The ancients were grateful for his humor. What were our losses? Ghost said, crossing his arms in front of him. We lost about 56% of what we had. A lot of that stuff isn't really missed, thankfully, but everything we had regarding your blood is gone, as well as the same other research. Walter sighed. But he didn't look very well. He looked even hurt. Well, could it be worse? I just hope something useful gets out of the lab, Ghost said, taking the flash drive from his pocket. Let's hope that's the case. Send it to me as soon as possible. Walter scratched his eyes tiredly. Now we have to go after Wesker as soon as possible. He's taken William. This aroused the curiosity of both agents. He did? William is stronger than that. There's no way he could have taken him that easily, Ghost said. He hated the guy, but he knew he wasn't anything. He wasn't as skilled as himself. Maybe even so much more that he and Hunk combined. Well, yes, that was a part of the plan. He knew that Wesker wouldn't kill him, not right away, but there is no way of knowing for how long. The sooner we act, the better, Walter sighed once more. Look, 88% of equipment is gone. We still have a lot of weapons left, and that's a good thing. We haven't lost that many of the specials, but we're still going to need help on this one. Hunk and Ghost looked at each other as this was new. What do you mean, Walter? Hunk asked. The doctor clicked his tongue. Can you take your masks off, please? Face-to-face is hard enough, but through a computer screen is even more uncomfortable. It feels like I'm talking to two robots. They were silent for a few moments and didn't really like taking their masks off, but they respected Walter. They liked him. They didn't see why not, so they did. The wind blew through Ghost's blonde hair and the Reaper's red eye. Well, that's better, thanks, Walter thanked them with a small smile. What I mean is, by exactly what you sound like, we can't do it alone. We don't have what it takes anymore. We need help. Are you serious? Ghost asked, still not quite believing it. Well, that's bullshit. You can't count on the government organizations. Of course you can, remember? The BSAA is more reliable than any other, Walter said. This time Ghost too, who sighed. There was nothing we can do, Ghost. Contact the BSAA. They already have plans to go after Wesker anyway. Ghost ran his hand through his hair. It had gotten even worse. I agree, but I don't think we should take our eyes off of Wesker just yet. If the BSAA refuses, we'll have to proceed alone, Hunk said, sitting down in front of his laptop and resting his arm on his knee. What do you suggest? Walter asked. I'm going after him. He's not going to stop with just the main base. He's going to go south. Take what's left. We can't let that happen, Hunk replied, his cold voice matching the clear eyes. Do you still plan to face him alone, Reaper? No, he plans to weaken him. Ghost cut off the doctor. The experiments with William's blood are there. The samples aren't complete, but if he injects into Wesker, it will still weaken him and make him sick. Hunk confirmed with a nod, and Walter looked for a thoughtful moment, fearful. Are you sure you want to do this? He asked after a while. It has to be done, was all Hunk said before standing up. Okay then, you know what to do. As soon as it's safe, I'll send you my location as the same channel. Good luck. You too, Walter. We'll be in touch, Hunk said, his goodbye, and turned off the system. Well, it looks like things are gonna go from bad to worse, Ghost said, staring at Hunk, who stared back at him and grimaced. Put your mask back on. Your face scares me. The Reaper smiled in good humor. You should look at yourself in the mirror, soldier. Chris was angry. No, that wasn't an understatement. He was pissed off. He wanted to punch something, destroy something, kill things. He received a call from Sherry. He was worried that he couldn't get in touch with Claire, which was strange, but not unusual. But he was in the area. He decided to pay her a little visit. She wasn't at home, even though Theo said that she had seen her going upstairs from the Manatera save. But the strange thing was that the reception hadn't seen her come down with the morning. He tried her job, nothing. He tried her favorite restaurant, nothing. And before noon, he had driven halfway around the city. He then got a call from the reception of the security cameras outside showed a man putting two people in the back of the van. She's been kidnapped. Fucking kidnapped. Her and her boyfriend. And with that, the night became quicker than he would have liked. Why? Why her? Who would do that? In the back seat, Sherry asked questions that Chris cared a little bit about answering. He would like to make whoever paid, no matter who. The girl was just as worried as he was, but he didn't have the words to comfort her, nor did he want to at the moment. He was too angry. It doesn't make sense, but we'll sort it out. We have information that the van left town around 2 in the morning, heading for the private airport. We can go there and ask some questions, Jill said, sitting in the seat next to Chris with the laptop on her lap. Oh, I'll ask them some nice questions, Chris grumbled, tightening his grip on the steering wheel. Jill just sighed, knowing full well that there was no point on telling him to calm down. It wouldn't change anything. She just hoped that he wouldn't do something stupid. A short while later, she and Sherry's eyes widened slightly in shock when Chris suddenly stopped the car. Chris, what is it? Jill asked. But as she looked at him, she noticed him staring straight ahead. Seeing what he was staring at, she squinted slightly and saw a figure standing in the road. Oh, I don't have time for this shit, Chris grumbled again, grabbing the gun in from his waistband and getting out of his car. Hey, whoever the hell you are, I advise you to put your hands up and get on the ground before I blow your head off. The figure slowly raised his hands, but it didn't look like he was going to lie down on the ground. Chris shook his head and shot the figure in the feet, who in turn just lowered his head, looking like the shot smirked on the mark on the ground. I'm not kidding, asshole. The next one's going right for your head, Chris practically growled. The figure then took a step forward. And I don't have my right to remain silent, Redfield? The voice was familiar. Very familiar. The Freak couldn't help but be surprised that the masked man slowly approached the car with his arms raised. What the fuck are you even doing here? Chris asked, suspicious it was clear. Why is it when something happens you're always involved? Because it's my job, he replied neutrally. Chris shook his head. You bastard! You think you're so clever? You know too much, so tell me, where did they take Claire? The man stopped approaching, stood still for a few moments in silence. He even looked thoughtful. I don't know, he replied. Somehow his voice seemed colder. Oh, you don't know? Very inconvenient of you if you ask me, Chris growled. I don't know, but I can help you find out, as long as you help me. That was new. Their faces turned to a confused expression. Help with what? Jill asked, and the man lowered his hands. We have the same interests. Albert Wesker, he has to die, the man said, his cold eyes staring into Chris's boiling ones. What do you say, Redfield? How about making yourself useful to all of us and break a few rules?